So it's essential that I take this responsibility seriously, given how important it is. There's no way I'm going to be insulted when I call my video channel Crippled CEO. This post is going to be a bit selfish. I'm going to use it to work through my own thoughts because I want to answer a very important question. What is my job? What should be my job? Now, ostensibly, that is kind of a silly question. My job is I'm the CEO of Lifesaver Improvement System Incorporated, Child Safety Store Incorporated, and a couple of other corporations. But that's just my title. What's my actual job? Because when you're the owner and chief executive of an enterprise, it's important for you and for the company that you put yourself in the roles where you can have the biggest impact. In an earlier video, I talked about Tim Harris, the owner of Tim's Place, a restaurant in New Mexico. Tim has Down syndrome, and he decided as the owner that the best job for him was hugging each guest that came to the restaurant. I thought then, and I still think now, that this is a brilliant example of self-awareness and custom tailoring your responsibilities to fit your strengths and weaknesses to best support the business. Now, when you first start, your job is pretty obvious. If you start a business doing carpentry, unless you're starting out with a lot of funding or a lot of waiting customers, your job is going to be doing carpentry. If you are your company's only employee, your job is to do the thing your company does for people. There's really no way around that. When I started a website design company, I designed websites. Same idea. However, once you have a couple employees, a question starts to emerge about what you should be doing. To use our carpentry company example, maybe the answer is still carpentry, but maybe it isn't. Maybe you found people who are just as good or maybe even better than you are at the actual woodworking. Maybe there are other things that only you as the owner can do. It's easy to just keep doing carpentry though and not realize this. Momentum is powerful, and the story we tell ourselves about who we are is even more powerful. At the start of this, I said I was going to be selfish and work through my own personal responsibilities, what they are and why I choose them, and what I think I should change. Hopefully, this might be useful for some of you as well who might be in the same boat or maybe see yourself possibly coming aboard this boat in the future. I don't know how to transition into this, so in no particular order. My first job is culture. I hate using such a ubiquitous example of trendy corporate speak, but there is really not a better term, so I'm kind of stuck with it. I feel like one of my most important jobs is defending the amazing environment and community. I'm trying so hard not to use the word culture here, that we have developed at Lifesaver and the Child Safety Store. It's a rare and special opportunity to be able to influence a small part of the world, to be closer to what I think the ideal might be, not just as a place I'm excited to spend 8 to 10 hours a day, but as a microcosm for a better society as a whole. I think this culture is critical, not just for the continued growth and success of the business, but also for my personal happiness. And while everybody can and does contribute, either consciously or unconsciously, I'm not sure that anybody can have an impact on this as much as I can. So it's essential that I take this responsibility seriously, given how important it is. So it's important and it's my job, but in practical terms, what do I do? What does that job entail? There's a few things. The first is to set an example. I've seen firsthand in the last 20-something years of running businesses that my behavior gets echoed, for better or for worse, by the people around me. And it makes sense. It's my company, so they are looking to me to set the standard for what is acceptable. In lots of cases, the actions I take and the choices I make become de facto policies when others find themselves in similar scenarios. So, when they hear me repeat all the time that doing the right thing is always the right thing, doing the right thing is always the right thing. And they see me try to live by that and make decisions based on that as often as possible, that has an impact. When I repeatedly give customers the benefit of the doubt and replace things that probably aren't really covered by the warranty or aren't really missing and so on. They do the same thing. When they see me give out small replacement parts for free, they do that too. When they see me joke around and have a sense of humor, both with customers and with colleagues, when they see me give the benefit of the doubt, be generous, lead with compassion, and so on with employees, when they see me caring about water safety, when they see me being understanding with suppliers and etc., I see them do those things too. My example sets the rules and the bar at the same time. After that, it is prioritizing the right things in other people. I can set all the examples I want, but if I only have jerks working with me, it's not gonna make much of a difference. While both is preferred, I choose kind and reasonable over productive and competent every time. When I am hiring people directly, I am trying to decide if they will be a good addition to the culture far more than I'm deciding if they will do a good job at the work. In most cases, I can teach the work. I can't make somebody a good person. I'm not their mom. And because I have carefully chosen the managers who are really great people, and because they agree with this outlook, they are also hiring with the same criteria in mind. And if we make a mistake and we do hire a jerk, we let them go fast. We are far more likely to fire somebody for being mean than for making mistakes. Number 2, creating new jobs and filling them. According to one of my heroes, the incomparable Seth Godin, this is essentially a CEO's sole responsibility, and this is becoming a bigger focus for me as well. I try to find new ways for us to keep growing. In years past, I've done this in 2 different ways. Sometimes I identify a specific thing I want done and hire somebody to do that. I think this is the more conventional train of thought. Other times though, I have a specific person who I know will be awesome, and I just hired them and then figured out what they can do. I once heard somebody say that if Jimi Hendrix wants to join your band, it doesn't matter if you already have a guitar player, you let Jimi Hendrix in your band. I have certainly done this with employees before as well. Sometimes you know a person will be terrific, but you just have to make it work. Number 3, I am the last line of defense for money leaving the business. I sign every check, I create and send out the wires myself. Ellen DeGeneres said that one of the best pieces of advice that she ever received was from Oprah: sign all of your own checks. And I'm definitely very trusting people, some might say too much, but at the size we are now, this seems like a reasonable level of oversight. Number 4, I do payroll. I physically run payroll each week. I determine everybody's pay, and I do the raises. Managers will recommend a raise if they feel it is warranted after review, but I'm the one that makes the final call and actually enter it into the payroll system. This sort of falls under the same category of being the person who dispenses money, but it feels different enough to warrant its own item on this list. Number 5, I initiate special projects that move the company forward. Technically, anyone can do this, and they often do, but I feel like my higher perspective and permission gives me an additional ability to see new things that we should attempt. I try to just get the project started and let people suited to it actually get it done, so I'm not the bottleneck. Number 6, I'm the solver of serious problems. Most problems can be solved best by other people, but every now and again, there's either something complex that benefits from my expert experience, or so existential that it requires my input. Number 7, I'm the tie-breaking vote. Occasionally, there are multiple seemingly equal good options for something, the path forward isn't clear, and a decisive choice is required. If it's important enough or falls into a category where I have a particular expertise, I make the call. One benefit of this is that it shifts the responsibility to me. That way, I'm the only one to blame if the wrong choice was made. Number 8, I manage the relationships with our biggest customers, vendors, and suppliers. I'm trying to do less of this, honestly. More and more, I'm letting other people do a lot of the communications with these key partners. I think this is a good direction, both to remove me as a bottleneck and so hiccups can be avoided if I'm not around. Number 9, I am the public face of the company and its primary spokesperson for pretty much everything. media, events, interviews, online, etc. I'm not sure I'm the best person for this, but I also don't know who else could do it. Also, the press typically does like hearing from the CEO directly, but I bet there are ways we can circumvent that. Number 10, I am the resident pool fence / pool safety expert. I've been in the industry the longest and the most deeply, so I know the most about the thing we do. Other people have done a great job on really learning though, so I'm only really necessary in this role for the most esoteric questions and situations. I think I'll be less necessary for this kind of thing as time goes on. Number 11, I am the pool fence donation coordinator. Lifesaver donates pool fences to any family who has suffered a fatal or non-fatal drowning. Historically, I have tended to be the person who communicates with the family, reaches out to their local lifesaver, and sets it all up. I am terrible at all of the logistical parts of this though, so I've been working on removing myself. Also, we now have a chief giving officer in Paul DeMello, so I've been letting him take the reins on a lot more of this. Number 12, new franchise setup. We've done a terrific job of systematizing the majority of the process of vetting inquiries, walking them through the process, getting them here for training, and then making sure that they are squared away when they get back home. I still do the pitch presentation where I let them know about the company, what being a franchise looks like, etc. I probably don't have to do this, but at the moment, I'm likely the best person available for the job, even though I'm not really great at it. Marketing. I personally oversee all of the company's marketing. If I have a background in something besides pool fence, it's in marketing, specifically advertising online. I have a very particular sense about what our brand looks like, what it sounds like, what it feels like, and it's important to me to maintain that. Lots of CEOs should not be running their business's marketing, but this is an area I'm especially strong in, and it's a driving factor for our success for the last 10 years. I've outsourced a lot of the hands-on management of the specific advertising platforms, but I'm still overseeing all of it, and besides directing the larger strategy, I'm also tweaking and tuning the individual ads and campaigns on a regular basis. Some CEOs are also their company's chief engineer because that's their strength, and this makes sense. This is not me, which is why I have Michael Dosher and Chris Lupton and Parker Spence. If I tried to do that job because other CEOs do it, it would be very bad. The same goes for the marketing. I do it because it's my thing. If it's not your thing, you should definitely let someone else who loves it help you. Number 14, tracking and projecting revenue, expenses, and profit. I am monitoring our live P&L, our profit and loss statement, multiple times per day, and the balance sheet about once per day. We have a great CFO in Vitaly Namer, but I still think it's important that I have a deep understanding of the company's health, its momentum, its vulnerabilities, and its problems. And a lot of that can be found by watching the financial statements. It's also the metric I use to keep score, to know if we are winning or not. I really love games, and running these businesses is my absolute favorite game. So I can't get enough of watching the scorecard to know how we are doing. Our CFO is also monitoring all the numbers, but no one is going to obsess about it like I am. So I think it's an essential job for me to have. I think that mostly covers it. There's a few other odds and ends. Obviously, there's stuff I have to sign. There's the administrative things that pop up, etc. That can't be avoided. But I believe that's the crux of my various jobs. I'll be honest. I figured this list would be a few big critical things, broad strokes type stuff, and I would use that as an example of focusing on what's important, knowing your strengths and avoiding your weaknesses, and avoiding less important tasks and so on. However, as I kept thinking, the list just kept getting longer. This was supposed to be a selfish exercise, and I did find it to be really helpful. All in all, I'm happy with the bulk of what I do currently. That was not always the case. Over 2 decades, though, I've managed to curate the roles I excel in and weed out most of what I'm bad at or dislike. They typically go together. Going through this did highlight a couple jobs I should find better people for, and an especially important thing I should be doing more of. I hope this was useful for you. to see the types of jobs that someone who has been at this for a while has chosen to assign himself, and the thought process behind these decisions. This kind of insight from others really helps me, and I also find it really interesting. So hopefully one of you feels the same way. If you have any questions or suggestions, I would love to hear them. This is something I love talking about. If you also own a business that's allowed you to determine your own roles, I'd be interested in hearing your choices as well. You know what job I never turned down? Your mom. And there are a bunch of jobs she did to me last night that I don't think I can say on YouTube. She also subscribes to my channel and likes all my videos, and I think you should too. Thank you so much for watching, and you and your mom will see me on the next one. Alexa, snooze that reminder for 15 minutes.